All right. Welcome to PTZOptics Live. Today, we are talking about how to get your camera on the network. It's so important, and you can actually go to PTZOptics.com/IP. We'll show that lower third in a second to show you that. And that is where you can go to get a bunch of great information and tutorial videos on how to get your PTZ camera connected to the network. I've got a great presentation today. Plus, I'm watching the chat, so if you've got any specific questions, go ahead and ask, and we'll get to them. So let's get started, everybody. All right, networking help, setting up a PTZ camera. So we called this networking help because we want to let you know that we have ongoing support for your projects. This is our support team going left to right. We have Colin, Andy, Matthew, and Sean, and they're available to you via phone, via email, via chat. They manage a detailed knowledge base and forum where you can ask questions, submit tickets. Plus, I want to mention that we have an entire Udemy course on udemy.com that you can take for free to familiarize yourself with all the core concepts from PTZ Optics. We also have a great Facebook user group, and you're watching one of our weekly live shows. So PTZ camera controls. I've been in this industry for a long time. PTZ Optics has been in business for 6 years. And from the beginning, we knew IP connectivity was the future. And so now we have so many great integrations with the world's top live streaming, video conferencing, video production, and hardware and software solutions. So you can control PTZ Optics cameras with vMix, with Wirecast, with XSplit, with OBS, with the TriCaster, with Mimo Live. The list goes on and on and on. Livestream Studio. There's so many great options for controlling your cameras. We also have really great best-in-class PTZ camera software for Mac and PC, IP joystick controllers, and then iOS and Android software, which we can take a look at if you guys are interested. But high level, we're going to be talking about how to set up your PTZ camera with an IP address so it can work with all of this stuff over here. We really need to get your camera on the network to make the most out of the possibilities. So, you may find, every situation's different. This picture here is showing a video producer. They have a joystick controller. That's the HuddleCam HD serial controller, which is a very affordable joystick, but they're also using an iPad, or maybe it looks like an Android, I'm not sure. It might even be an Amazon Fire tablet. I'm not sure, but the touchscreens are great as well. So there's so many different ways to control the cameras. Let's talk about the easiest way to get started with IP control. So obviously you have an IR remote with your PTZ Optics camera, but did you know that there's 2 simple shortcuts that you can use to get your camera set up with an IP address? 2 shortcuts that you should know about. One is #4 and one is *4. I'll throw another one at you guys since you're watching live. Another one that you can learn is *, and these F1, F2, F3, and F4 buttons. Those allow you to set the camera's unique IR address so that you can use one IR remote control to control up to 4 cameras. But let's look at these 2 first. So *4, you take your camera. I've got a camera right in front of me here, right? And we'll show it here on the screen. And I can go up to the camera and I can do #4. I'm not going to do it because I've already done it here. That will reboot the camera and it will set up for DHCP mode. And what that means is the camera will receive an IP address from your network, meaning it's going to get an IP address that your computer can use, that any device on your network can use, and you can find that IP address by hitting *4, and it will show the IP address directly in the video software that you're using. So if you're connecting via HDMI, SDI, or the HD IP video stream, you'll be able to see that. So for example, let's go ahead and pull up this camera here that I'm looking at now. This camera here, if I hit *4, I can see the IP address right there is where it comes up. And that is very, very helpful. Now this is the PTZOptics camera control app. We'll look at this later when we're ready, but that's how it works. So it's that simple. And I'm just going to keep an eye on the chat room here, getting a lot of questions. We will have to chat sometime. I'll make sure I get to all these questions soon. Now, the IP upgrade tool. This is the tool you can get at ptzoptics.com/downloads. You can get the upgrade tool, and you just hit this search button right here, and it will automatically find all the PTZOptics cameras on your network. And you can right-click any of these cameras and click the config button. And what that does is it brings up this configuration panel here where you can decide whether you want the mode to be manual, meaning a static IP address, or DHCP, which is dynamic, meaning it gets an IP address from your network. So if you would like to do a static IP address, which I generally suggest so that you can manually have IP addresses in the order that you would like, you just type that IP address right into that bar there and hit the set button. When you hit set, you will see it will say success, and the camera will reboot with its new IP address. The next time you search for it, it will show up in this list, but it will have the IP address that you set. Now, once you have that IP address, which I do have this camera's IP address, and now that I'm thinking about it, I almost want to go ahead and show this. This camera's IP address is 192.168.68 right there. So now I can control, oh, you know what? It's not 68, it's 87. Sorry, got too many cameras here. All right, 87. And now I can control this camera. So Mike, why don't you go ahead and show that camera that I'm controlling here? Mike's going to show it, I think, in a side-by-side view, so just give him a second. But this is the IP interface. So you have all of these options for setting up your streams and your controls. You have the ability to tweak the image, the audio, the network information, and then all of these options for pan, tilt, and zoom speeds. You can actually do a focus lock, which is great. You can set and call presets and a whole bunch more. So there's lots of great information here about your camera, the firmware. So it's really great to be able to get to that point where now you've got control over it over IP. You know the IP address. Now we can start using it with a bunch of different options. All right, Mike, we'll have to skip this because we didn't get to it in time. It's fine. Oh, there we go. So I wanted to show this really quickly. There we go. So I'm using the web browser UI there to control the camera very simply and easily, zooming it in and out directly over the web browser. Now, this is not the most ideal situation. We want to control it with our iPhone. We want to control it with our iPad, our Android, and many other things. So that's what we're going to be talking about now. So we've gotten this far, but at high level, I want to talk about networking. So I'm not leaving anybody behind who might be new to IP networking. So some basic networking is required. And again, ptzoptics.com/IP has a lot of great videos that you can go over, and you can really get in-depth information. Today, we will set up like an iPad, iPhone, so that you can control your camera wirelessly. And we'll look at the PTZOptics camera control apps. But first, high level, what is a network? Well, it starts with a router. And so a router is your internet access. So that is Comcast, Verizon, AT&T, all the different service providers, Cox, that provides internet. Now, some networks have a firewall, but not all do. Some have the firewall built into the router so that you might not see that device. And then you're going to need a network switch. And the network switch actually plugs into all of the devices, including Wi-Fi access points. And you would want a Wi-Fi access point if you wanted to control your PTZ cameras wirelessly. Now, some routers do have network ports. So you could potentially plug a camera or a wireless router or a wireless network port right into that without needing a network switch. So there's a lot of different setups, but high level, I just wanted you guys to see that is kind of the way it works. Now, your router generally has the first IP address in your IP range. So for this example, we have 192.168.1.1. So that router is the first IP address. And, computers generally pick up a dynamic IP address. So they get like a random IP address every once in a while. But let's just say, and thank you, Peter. Thank you, Outcast. Thanks, guys. I know you guys are asking a lot of questions. I'm going to get to them as soon as I can. Mike, if you see any questions that you want me to address, just show them up on the screen. I'll get to them. But computer 1, 2, 3, and 4, we actually have the IP addresses of .2, .3, and .4. But notice that they're on the same range, meaning 192.168.1 is the starting point, and that last number is the unique one here. So they can all communicate together because they're on the same IP range, but they have unique IP addresses. Now, camera 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Well, I guess 1, 2, 3, and 4 all have unique IP addresses, and the IP joystick has a unique IP address. Notice that we have all of these IP addresses sequential. That's not required, but it's a best practice. It makes it very easy to maintain all of your IP addresses if they're all sequential like that. This is what our router looks like, just to give some folks an idea. This is what our Comcast router looks like, and it provides internet. It also has its own little wireless hotspot. But keep in mind, YouTube and Facebook, that's outside of our network. So we're talking about inside of our local area network, and we'll touch on NDI, which is a great IP protocol that is inside your local area network. You can, I just want to mention, you can be at an outside location and control a PTZ camera over here inside your network if you know how to get in, right? Securely and safely using a VPN, using an outside IP address, using dynamic DNS. We're not going to cover that today, but for you networking pros, you can control these PTZ cameras from anywhere in the world, and that is an interesting idea. Now, when we're talking about the network, it opens up a lot of great opportunities. One is obviously software-based camera control. And you can see on our YouTube channel that we have videos on how to control with Wirecast, how to control the cameras with vMix, how to control the cameras with all kinds of things. And the software world is great. And so you should be able to control the cameras directly from your main broadcast PC. But the other thing that you can do is you can set up other computers on your local area network that can view the camera feed and control the camera. And you can even control them with an Xbox controller. So maybe we'll take a look at that today as well if you guys want to see that. We're definitely going to look at the PTZOptics camera control app. And you could have an IP joystick as well with a live video preview monitor. So it doesn't have to be tethered to the camera. You can be anywhere on your local area network. So some of the practical applications, just to kind of blow your mind for just a little bit, is imagine you can have multiple cameras on the network. You can have multiple producers on the network. One producer could be producing a show in Spanish. The other could be producing it in French. One could be in English. Maybe one has a special overlay with sign language. Maybe one is produced for a specific audience on Facebook. Another is produced for another audience in another location. So from a production standpoint, once everything's on that local area network, you can do so much with it. So I just wanted to open your guys' eyes to some of those opportunities. And keep in mind when we're doing IP video and we're sending streams from a vMix and we're using NDI Studio Monitor, and maybe we're doing some high bit rate NDI feeds and some NDI HX high efficiency cameras, they take up bandwidth on your network. So think about that. If you have a gigabit network switch, gigabit stands for 1000 megabits. Generally in video, every time you add a new video source, you're adding possibly a lot of megabits of transfer speed on your network, and there is a limit to what you can do. So think about your router speeds and learn a little bit about networking so that you don't bring down your network or you don't overload your network and wonder why things aren't working properly. Now, I want to mention, Michael and I have worked very hard on camera setup videos for every camera that PTZOptics offers. These setup videos go in depth on how to set your camera up, start to finish, opening the box, plugging it in, setting IP addresses and everything better than I can do in this video because this is live. So right now we're in a live stream. I want to answer your questions live after a short presentation, but these setup videos really go in depth, and we did post-production and everything. So take a look at those, and they include a setup guide as well, a quick start guide to get you going. So definitely take a look at that for your individual camera model. Okay.
You should mention user groups.
Oh yeah, and so you can also join the PTZOptics user groups on Facebook and see what other folks are doing, ask questions, and get a lot of great quick answers. Now, I want to mention the NewTek NDI cameras. That's really been a huge push into IP networking in the IP world. NDI has seamless integration with so many great video production softwares. You can power the cameras over Ethernet, and you can control the cameras remotely. So very, very cool stuff there. And we've got a free training course on Udemy with lots of different options. There's a Udemy course just on PTZOptics cameras. There's one just on NDI, and there's one specifically for houses of worship. Now, if you're working with volunteers, it's important to remember we need to make things easy. So doing all the networking for them really helps them to just use a touchscreen or a tablet or an Xbox controller or a joystick. And so we can put these cameras anywhere, right? We can put them on the ceiling. We can put them on the wall. We can pole mount them, put them in the ideal location that's discreet and out of the way. Gone are the days of the traditional clunky large broadcast cameras. And now we're being able to control these over the network, which is really great. So let's see here. What's my next slide here? Okay. Finally, I wanted to quickly mention just some recap stuff. If you do use PTZOptics cameras with OBS, this is somewhat new. We have these OBS control modules, so you can dock OBS controls directly on your OBS interface. So take a look at these. They're available on PTZOptics.com in our downloads, and we should take a look at that. Look at the comments and make sure we're all good on the YouTube comments, by the way. There might be some good ones in there for you. You can, this is the medium controller here, and this is the small controller here. So you can control your camera directly in OBS, and I think that's really cool. I wanted to show everybody that. You can get this open source software, and then it's a dockable controller into OBS. So take a look at that. If you use OBS, all these nice little controllers that you can dock directly into your OBS browsers. Now, we mentioned, and this is the part I want to kind of get to with the software side of things, is that, here we go, right here. This is the PTZOptics camera control software. Now, what I want to do is I just want to show it in compact view without the preview window. So this is what it looks like normally. So this is just a small little compact view that you can use to control up to 8 cameras. So when you go to settings and multi-camera settings here, you have the ability to choose from USB cameras and IP cameras. Now, obviously, we've been talking about IP cameras. That's an IP address that we get from our camera. We give it a name, and then we go ahead in here, we click the button, and now we're controlling that camera, which is great, right? Now, we also have the ability to look at this preview window full screen or snap it directly to the controller. So now you can see here I have control of the camera, and this is available in Mac and PC, and then we also have an OBS plugin that's very similar. So what I'd like to do is zoom in to this location over here. All right. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to set a preset over here and just call it giveaway wheel. We do have a giveaway we have to do, Mike, today, so we have to figure that out at some point. But we have here, boom, that's a door. Here, over here's Mike. And then we've got the giveaway wheel. And the cool thing is that you got these little pictures here to show you what it can do. There's also the ability to limit, pan, tilt, and zoom limits. So if you don't want the camera to go off field, for example, or off stage with a volunteer who doesn't know what they're doing, you can set up limits. So this is really great to be able to do that as well. Now, this is compact mode with a preview, but I want to show the advanced view, which opens up all of these additional features in here. Now, make sure you have the most up-to-date firmware if you want all of these features to work on your camera. But one important one is like how fast do you want the camera to move, really fast or really slow. You can touch up the shutter speed, the iris, the brightness, and all of this great stuff in here. You can take a snapshot at any time to save pictures, and there is a really cool image preview map that I'm not going to 100% get into today, but essentially you can upload a picture into here, and then you can have preset buttons that you can click so that the camera goes exactly where you want it to. So we've got some videos on that. Essentially, you could be in a church or an educational setting or a football field, do a panoramic view, upload the panoramic view into here, and then actually have the live view picture in picture, and put the presets on a map, on an image, and then click the image when you want it to, where you want the camera to go. It's great for volunteers. Okay, I'm going to get to questions pretty soon. Just want to let everybody know, Mac, PC, and OBS, these apps are available for. You can connect up to 8 cameras. You've got some great view options from preview to compact to advanced. And then really great features for shutter speed, iris, white balance. You've got the high resolution monitors if you'd like. This will work with 4K monitors. You can download the app at PTZOptics.com. And for those of you who are computer programmers, there is a full list of HTTP commands that you can use. You can go to GitHub and get our repository of code, because these are totally open source as well. All right, let's jump into Q&A now. So I'm going to take a peek at all of the different people that are here.
Jump into YouTube.
Hi, hello, Wayne. Nice to be here. Rich is saying it would be wonderful if the preset names in the web browser would match up with the preset names in the app. That the preset names in the app. Okay, I see where you're going with that. That is not currently a feature. The app itself kind of builds its own library of preset names. And so that probably will not ever match up with the names in the web browser, but I'll check because it's a good feature request. So let's see here. So the Mac version of your control is not functional in Mojave. I would double check that because we have updated that and made it available for the latest version of Mac. So double check the latest version of that because we did some updates recently on that.
Would he have to re-download?
Yeah, you'd have to just delete the one you have and re-download it from PTZOptics.com software section. Get the Mac version that has been updated. Okay. Random question, and doesn't currently apply to him. Is there a method to open 2 instances of the PTZOptics app and control 16 cameras? I believe you can only have 1 instance of the app running at a time, but that's a good question. I don't know about that. I think you can only do 1 with a maximum of 8 cameras. As long as it's on the LAN, your joystick will work if it's on a different switch. I guess that was answer to another question. As long as it's on LAN, your audio is not matching your video. Mike, can you check my audio and make sure we have 80 milliseconds of delay on it? Can a joystick control cameras that are on different network switches? Yes. So that was the answer to that. All right, just do 8. Also, best practices. Keep a book. Here we go. Todd's giving us a best practice here. Always keep a book with a list of devices and their static IP addresses. And use a label maker to tag your devices. Mike, can we show everybody? That's exactly what we do with our cameras. Let me see if I can find a camera here that's a good example of that. And I also want to show the PTZ. This is perfect because I wanted to be able to show this app anyway. So let me zoom in to show this to you. Okay, so this is the PTZOptics iOS. This is available for Android and iOS. This is the app here. This is a really nice little layout of this. So essentially this app right here on the top has all of those cameras that I can control. When I hit the cog there, it opens up the settings. So you can see there is a camera name. So I have, this is the camera 30X. You can see it has an IP address there. It has a speed setting for preset speeds and a speed setting for manual controls.
Want to take that bad boy for a spin?
Let's take it for a spin to show you guys how it works. So first of all, I'm going to zoom out because I'm way too zoomed in.
Good shot. Good job.
There we go. And then second of all, I wanted to show you guys, not the whole studio. Oh no, they can see it's a mess. I wanted to show like this camera over here. Because for example, you can see the label. So we always put a camera name and a label on there so that you can see exactly what the IP address is. And Todd's perfectly right. You know, we always want to do that.
Fire up that phone.
So that is good. Now, I wanted to also mention that we are in the midst of a huge amount. Oh, I guess I need to bring that camera back, don't I? We're in the midst of updating these apps a lot. There's been a lot of great features that have been requested for these apps. So we're in the midst of doing a huge update to the PTZOptics camera control apps. So I'm seeing a lot of these questions here that are being resolved with some of these. So can the app control the SDI Gen 2 cameras? Yes, it can. Any PTZOptics camera with IP, it will control. Now, I will say that you should update the firmware of your app. If you haven't done it in a while, there's a lot of great updates to the firmware. So call our support team, as we mentioned. They have a lot of great updates for you on this.
Do I have to delete that firmware?
The firmware itself, you should first request it from the support team and say, hey, this is my firmware, which you can see on the camera settings page that we looked at. And if you need to update it, they'll give you the updated firmware, and then you can update your camera and you'll get some new features with the control software. Some of the more advanced stuff that we've been adding in is available, but you have to update the firmware. If your camera's 2, 3, 4, 5 years old, think about updating it, because I'd say at least every 3 months there's a new update to the firmware. Okay. Rick is asking, what is the current wait time for new cameras generally? The good news is we have just got some huge shipments in, and they're going out to our distributors. So the distributors actually would know best. I know that we're seeing huge orders come in and they're shipping out to our distributors, and then they distribute it out to like B&H Photo and the different places that people can buy cameras. So with that being said, you know, I know that there's been like selling out and back orders. So I would guess, you know, in the neighborhood of 4 to 8 weeks. It's always a moving target. So it's really hard to say. But I do know that we're shipping out lots of cameras every day, and we're receiving lots of them in all the time. So the best thing to do is to really just make sure your order's in so you're in that queue. And I expect that all of this is going to be resolved. You know, we're quite a few months into the COVID-19 pandemic, which has led to really a growth in the need for PTZ cameras. But I think that's starting to level off now. So I think I would expect everything's going to come back to normal at some point. Now, how do we contact the support team? So the support team is available via email, via chat, and via phone. So right on PTZOptics.com, there is a support phone number that you can call. You can email support@PTZOptics.com, and you can go to help.PTZOptics.com and get into that forum and the ticket system and the knowledge base there, and submit a ticket if you ever have an issue. Now, will the NDI cameras do 60 frames per second? Yes, they will. And all of the updated firmware for the SDI cameras also support broadcast frame rates. Now, Adam is just confirming, yes, they have the 12x NDI, and it does 60 frames per second. Advantage Video Systems are here. They're a great reseller to get PTZOptics cameras from. Thank you for being here. Now, let's see. Is there a way to disable the IR remote control? As far as I know, there is not. One thing that you could do, you know, we looked at that star pound F4, for example, and that would put it on the 4th camera one. And most people never even touch those. So if you do that, you know, it's unlikely that the camera will respond to the IR remote unless someone knows to put it on that number 4. So that's as far as I know regarding that. Kyle's saying he just received cameras from B&H that he ordered in May. So I apologize for the late notices. I do know that every time I'm at the warehouse, there's lots and lots of cameras going out, but there is a they go to distributors. So there is currently a back order with backlogs of orders. So I apologize that it's taking so long. I'll try to get better information with that on our next live stream. Let's do our giveaway now. So basically, we're going to go to gleam.com where we do our giveaways. I'm going to pull one winner. If that person is here, we will spin the wheel. If not, then we will restart for next week. Now, let's go ahead. I'm going to draw a winner. I'm going to put it into the chat room, and hopefully that person is here. Okay, we have Vaughn Allum from Miami, Florida. So Vaughn, if you're here, please let us know. If not, we will see you guys next week. You do need to be here in the chat in order to claim the prize. Tape a piece of paper in front of the IR receiver, says Outcast, if you do not want the IR remote to be controlled. That's a good idea. I mean, especially if you're in a public place and you don't want somebody to be screwing around with your camera because somehow they bought an IR remote that works on B&H Photo maybe. But it doesn't look like Vaughn is here. If you're here, Vaughn, let us know. If not, we got to redo this giveaway wheel anyway. So let's have everybody come back next Wednesday. It seems like this was a great topic. So let us know if there's other topics of interest that you guys want to do, to hear about. I think next week we're going to go into a little bit more of a deep dive into the software side of things. So thank you everybody for watching. It's been really helpful. I can stay for a moment longer if there's any other questions, but thank you for watching. We're going to go over some of this stuff in more detail next week, next Wednesday on our live stream. All right. Thanks, everybody. Take care. Bye. Cheers.